دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار بود و توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران
بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد
علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه
اشتباه حرکت از قوچان نژاد فرصت برای قوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Welcome back to another episode of Goal Bezan. We just came off the games with Hong Kong and Uzbekistan. I'm joined by Arya and Sahand. Welcome, guys.
Good to be on, Sina. Appreciate it. Yeah, good to have Sahand back on as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
So let's just jump straight in. So we had two friendly games. Sorry, not friendly games, World Cup qualifiers. Hong Kong and then Uzbekistan. And then we got a friendly game before the Asian Cup. The Hong Kong one was an interesting one because we're actually playing them in the Asian Cup in January. So I guess it was a good sort of dress rehearsal, even though it was a competitive game. Let's go through the Hong Kong game first. So I guess like we all sort of knew going into it was going to be an easier game out of the two. And we did come away 4-0. Osman with 2 goals, Rezayan and Taremi. What did you think of the game, Arya?
Yeah, it was a good game, by Iran. I think, they did the job done, essentially. There was a big period during the game where Iran didn't really do much, but then they got back into it towards the end of the game. Scored the last 2 goals. Started the game really well, as well with the first 2 goals. Osman scored 2 goals. He probably should have got a 3rd goal. Taremi could have gotten his score sheet a few times. Rezayan scored a very nice free kick towards the end of the game. Salman played in midfield again, and I thought he did really well. And obviously he carried over to Uzbekistan as well. I think it was fine. Listen, it's Hong Kong. We're expected to beat them, and we did that 4-0 is a good result.
Yeah, the Hong Kong obviously had a few excuses during the build up to the game. So one being they weren't happy with the training facilities in Tehran, and also they had a few absentees. Probably a few of their like good players weren't there. So those are the sort of 2 big ones. I guess Sahand, like, what do you kind of make of Hong Kong?
I mean, the training facilities thing is. I remember they gave us some terrible training. We were training in somebody's backyard last time we went there, so I think that's whatever. But I mean, I think they were a little bit better than what I thought. They were pretty fast, and I guess they had a high line for a lot of the game, which gave them some problems with those running in behind. But I don't think they were actually awful. And a couple times they did threaten us the other way. Cannoni, I thought, had a good game against Hong Kong, for whatever that's worth, but a couple times you had to cover. But I didn't think they were that bad, but I mean, it's whatever. One of those games you just have to get the job done, and I think they played well, but there's not a lot that we can really take from the Hong Kong game, except for the fact that I thought it was interesting. Ghalenoei basically chose the same team that he did against Uzbekistan with just Sadrzadeh and Javanbakhsh obviously got injured in that game, but that I thought was a little bit interesting, because I would think that if you want to give a little bit of time to maybe some younger players, or not even just to say give time to younger players, but give time to people you would expect to potentially contribute off the bench in the future that maybe don't have a lot of minutes, which could be somebody like a Hossein Nejad, could be somebody like a Majid Hosseini who hasn't played for Team Melli for a while, but he's in good form now. I would think doing it against Hong Kong is, I mean, if you're not going to give Hossein Nejad or players like that minutes against Hong Kong, but when are they going to play? I just thought that was my only real takeaway, besides the fact that Team Melli played fine.
Yeah, I guess the other question that comes up from this game against Hong Kong, yes, it's a World Cup qualifier, but I guess given that we're playing them in the Asian Cup, I guess how would it be different, Arya, in the Asian Cup?
Not much different. I think obviously first and foremost it is a competition where I think Hong Kong they would try and get out of the group if they can. With it being UAE and Palestine, the other two teams, they might fancy their chances. But I think Iran. I mean, we beat Yemen 5-0 last time around in the Asian Cup. So I think ultimately Iran should just go out there and do the same thing they did against Hong Kong this time around as well. So I just as Sahand mentioned, I really do hope that within at least some of this qualification, we do see a few more young players playing. A guy like Hasbovi, could he have started against Hong Kong? Probably. Could he have started Mirad Mohammadi against Hong Kong rather than playing against Uzbekistan? Probably. Rather than Hoysafi playing on the bench against Uzbekistan. Could he have started Ali Karimi against Hong Kong and then played side against Uzbekistan? Again, yeah, probably.
Like,
I think
just on that note, like, not to jump in, but I mean, some of the players that we're playing now, like a guy like Kudus, his fitness is a lot better than it's been previously, but it's not like he's playing a lot of 90 minutes still, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. But what I just don't really see the point if we have a guy like Hossein Nejad who needs, some minutes at international level. It would make, I think, a lot more sense if he got some minutes against Hong Kong.
Javanbakhsh got injured.
Kudus is fine. Yeah, like, why is Javanbakhsh even playing against Hong Kong? I mean, that to me is just weird.
He got injured. So if he's, I mean, obviously he had a bad game, but if he is one of his key players, you don't need to start him against Hong Kong. You don't need to. You've got Torabi, you've got Mohebi on the bench, or Mohebi or Mirda Mohammadi on the bench. They're perfectly good enough to play against a team like Hong Kong. Not to say that he shouldn't play his best team, because he should. It's a competition that's we've got Asian Cup in a few months' time. So yeah, he should try and find his best team. But you also are preparing for a competition, so you want your whole squad to be ready as well, which at the moment isn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before in terms of his managerial, I guess, downfalls or incompetencies, where he is trying to find his best team, but at the same time doesn't give as many chances to young players. Maybe plays too safe with like the players that are more experienced, and maybe plays them for a bit too long. Doesn't do the rotations. And I think that maybe led to someone getting injured in the Uzbekistan game. Perhaps it was just fatigue, given that he hasn't played 90 minutes consistently. I don't know. But yeah, do you guys want to say anything more about that Hong Kong game before we move on to Uzbekistan?
Just on that point about like the safety aspect, I think it should just be mentioned that that's not limited to Ghalenoei. That's like something that's in just a part of our football culture and has been for decades. That coaches are very risk averse, and it has to do a lot with kind of the management structure of the clubs, how quickly coaches are hired and fired, and a lot of other kind of things, cultural things. But yeah, I mean, it's not limited to Ghalenoei, but in general, Iranian coaches, if the chances of them starting young players is really only when there's no significant competition on the horizon, or after. Like maybe after we go to the Asian Cup, and if it's an embarrassment, then you'll see, whoever's next, like blood some young players.
Well, you look at the stats, like for the Iranian league, we're one of the worst in the world at playing young players.
And the only teams that give a chance to young players recently is like Sepahan, who are coached by Moraes. So I think it's just a part of having an Iranian coach. They're not going to play young players unless it's really special situation.
It's a very good point. But I guess to your point around maybe if we go out in flames in terms of the Asian Cup, maybe that's the sign to bring in like a new generation. I think it needs to happen anyway. We talked about this in the last podcast when it was just me and Arya. This team is aging. So, they're either approaching 30 or they're past 30. So this needs to, I guess, like the younger players do need to get some minutes, because the next World Cup is, I guess, coming on the horizon, and these players that are playing now they're going to be past their prime by the time that tournament comes.
Yeah, I mean, look at like a player like Omid Ibrahimi, who I think is a very good player. I do admire him quite a lot. He came on against Hong Kong, a little bit quite early on actually for someone Ghoddos. Again, you could have brought on someone else a lot younger than him. It's not. There was no need to bring on Omid Ibrahimi. It wasn't like we were going to concede a goal. So I just feel like, look, I think it's just the way it is in Iran, unfortunately. And we look at our U17 team, we do have talented players, no doubt about it. Like, for example, the midfielder for our U17s, Raza Ghalenoei, could he, in the next couple of years, break into the national team and be a midfielder for us? Yeah, probably, because I think he looks, because we don't have a lot of players like him right now, even who are experienced players. So, but then that opportunity needs to be given to him, which is always like, it's always like, how is he going to get it? Is he going to get it by going to Europe? And even if he goes to Europe, it's not guaranteed that he gets minutes, so that's just the way it is.
And I think this does feed into, I guess, inexperience within like on the international stage. Like when we get to the World Cups, we don't really know how to manage games or how to like play out the 90 minutes. And I think this does start from the grassroots level of like giving these young players chances, because they get chances too late. And they haven't learned to play with each other for years, like the current, say, England squad, and they've grown up with each other, and it's only now they've been able to challenge for, say, like the finals of tournaments, semi-finals of tournaments. That's come from years of grassroots level football. I know you can't compare Iranian to England, but like that's the comparison
to an extent. But also you have to keep in mind, on the flip side of the coin, because I think now our conversation is becoming a little bit about this like experience versus youth. The supposed benefit to playing experience from the position of view of somebody like Ghalenoei is that these players have seen multiple World Cups. They should be able to manage a game better in theory. But if you look at our game against Uzbekistan, which I think we're going to talk about next, that's not the case either. Those experienced players do not know how to manage a game very well.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
Those experienced players are part of the reason for us to drop points, is because, whatever, they're not fit enough, they're not fast enough. Even though they're experienced, you have people that their mentality is totally questionable. If you look at some of the post-game comments from people like Bayram Van. So to me, it's like, it's kind of, I see the idea in theory why you would say, okay, experience, for somebody like Ghalenoei whose back is against the wall. I mean, let's be fair to Ghalenoei, that if he loses any one game, he's gone. I mean, that's how it is right now. I mean, his situation is in a way where everyone is kind of out with a pitchfork already from the very start, for better or worse, or for right reasons or wrong, regarding Ghalenoei. So he feels like he can't lose, but he's putting trust in players that I don't think deserve that level of trust.
That's the issue. Sorry, that's the issue, because when a coach's mentality is, I just have to win every game, and I'm not really going to bother about developing a national team, developing players, that becomes an issue, because when 2026 comes around, the team's not going to be ready for that, And Sam makes a great point there, a guy like Sadrzadeh, he's 34 years old. To me, not a very experienced player. Yes, he's old. He's played a lot of matches, but what is his experience? His experience is playing in Qatari League, in the PGPL,
Champions League. I think for like Sadrzadeh perspective, which I agree. I mean, I think he's one of the people who definitely should not be starting. But I mean, I like to sometimes look from the position of the coach, because it's easy for us to say, okay, it's wrong what he's doing. But from the position of the coach, I think what he's doing is saying, okay, Kanoni and Shoja have played, out of all the center backs we have, the most minutes together. They've played minutes in crunch games, you could say, Asian Champions League and crunch World Cup qualifiers. And what he's betting on is not necessarily that they're going to be perfect in these games, all of them, but that when that time comes in that critical game versus, say, South Korea in the quarterfinal, he's going to lean on them because they've seen it, they've been there. Have they always been successful? No, but that's kind of his reasoning, I guess. So for whether you agree with it or not, that's kind of what his perspective is.
I don't agree with it personally.
I mean, I don't agree with it either.
I understand the points completely. So let's talk about the Uzbekistan game then, because we were, in my opinion, like the first half, we played some of the best football I've seen us play for a while. It was actually very refreshing to see a lot of one-touch football, a lot of playing through the middle, playing through the wings. It was very, very positive football. Saman Ghoddos in the middle played like spectacularly, in my opinion. A lot of great passes. And for some reason, at half-time, something changed. I guess, like, what went wrong? And I guess, Sahand, you brought it up first. I'll start with you.
First of all, I'd like to just start with the lineup, which I think was, I have a lot of problems with the back four, but in terms of the changes he made, I mean, I thought that Torabi for Javanbakhsh was a really good change. I mean, Javanbakhsh, I know, got injured, but I thought Torabi had a great game in that first half. And you can tell, I mean, he was, compared to Javanbakhsh, he was contributing so much more to the attack.
He takes on players, which Javanbakhsh doesn't do.
He has great, passing range. He's quick in his decision making, much quicker than Javanbakhsh. And I thought he really gave that triangle between him, Taremi, and Ghoddos that was taking place on the left side of the field was really good. And I thought it actually complemented Azmoun and Mohebbi well. Because when those three, they all kind of want the ball and come to the ball to feet. And then you have Mohebbi, who was making good runs, stretching the space in behind on the opposite side. So I thought, compared to a lineup that has, say, a Javanbakhsh is another player who wants the ball only to feet and doesn't offer anything in behind, I thought there was a much more balance in our attack. And I think this was, a big game on the decision to start Ghoddos. Because this is the first time that we can say against, I would say Uzbekistan are much stronger than Qatar and much stronger than Hong Kong. And this is the first time that he's decided, no, I'm going to stick with the Ghoddos-Saeed pairing at the base of midfield with Taremi slightly ahead of them. So just on the lineup, that was my first impression that, okay, it looks like he's saying the first choice midfield I have is Izzatullahi, Ghoddos, and Taremi ahead of them as a 10. And I think Samson really responded well. I was really impressed in all facets of the game, without the ball, his pressing, defensive cover, tracking, and then, of course, with the ball. I mean, he was the one who was usually getting the ball from the center backs, distributing the play. He had a great assist that came from his own pressing. He had a couple other really nice longer balls. And the thing that changed, to your question, was Salman's injury. When Salman got injured in the 40th minute and he was replaced with Ali Karimi, that's when the game shifted. And I think from the perspective of Uzbekistan, they were 2-0 down, and they had just kind of been under this Iranian possession play and attack that had Ghoddos, Azmoun, Taremi really firing, Torabi contributing, Mohebbi stretching the game. And as soon as Ghoddos went down, it looked like their coach really, I mean, at halftime, he told them, look, these guys, they have three serious players, Ghoddos, Taremi, and Azmoun. The one who gives them the balls, he's just got injured. Everybody push up 10 yards, and that's what happened. In the second half, they were on us. They were pressing us high. Izzatullahi was coughing up the ball. Ali Karimi was coughing up the ball. I don't know what Bayram Van and Shoja and Kanoni were doing with the ball, but exactly. Great first half, and then injury of Ghoddos was the change of the game, and the decision to sub in a profile that had no similarity to Ghoddos and offers nothing that Ghoddos offers, which is Ali Karimi.
Yeah, I'll tell you what probably made more sense to me is playing Taremi where Ghoddos was playing. Like that would make more sense because he was dropping in deeper than some of the midfielders.
The only player with the profile of Ghoddos on Team Melli right now is Hossein Nejad. He's played in the Asian Champions League. He's been given minutes by a really good coach in Moraes. He's making a starter. And if you want to play a system that has Saeed and Taremi as the advanced 10, you need to have a player who can link it in the middle. You need to have a player who can take the ball and actually drive with the ball and break lines with the ball. And only Hossein Nejad has that profile. And I think it was a really good chance to trust him and give him some minutes in an important game. But, it's still, Uzbekistan away. It's not like he's playing in the quarterfinal of the Asian Cup. And he's 20 years old. Okay. But to me, if you look at profiles in our midfield and you choose before the game to have this, it's a unique midfield. We have to be honest. Izzatullahi, Ghoddos, Taremi. It's kind of like an unorthodox midfield. But if you choose that, then you have to have players. I mean, as Arya as a coach, you've been working on a system all week in training. The midfield is kind of the key battleground of the field. You need to have players as replacements that fill the same role that the starters do. Or else you're changing your tactic completely mid-game if you introduce new profiles. So to me, Izzatullah is one profile, and the profile closest to him is actually Ali Karimi. Qudus is another totally different profile. So to then replace Qudus with Ali Karimi and basically have two redundant, very slow defensive midfielders, that was what killed our game.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much saying the same things. I believe as well. I mean, I was in the post game space. You know, we're speaking about the substitutes. You bring in Ali Karimi for Saeed. You know, again, as Sahand's mentioning,
For someone.
for someone next to Saeed. The problem with that is not so much that Ali Karimi isn't a good player. Of course, he's a good player. I think Ali Karimi has qualities that Saeed doesn't have, you know. And I think similarly, I think Saeed has qualities that Ali Karimi doesn't have. They are quite different in that sense. They have differences, but
Ali Karimi's playing at a good level. I mean,
Yeah.
that's also, I know it's easy to bash him because he had a bad game.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, right now his team is 4th place in Turkey.
No,
He's a starter.
he's not a bad
You know,
player.
He's not a bad player.
No, it's not that. It's just that his qualities don't really help the team. You know, you got someone who, first and foremost, give credit to where it's due. Amir Ghalenoei playing someone in that midfield pairing is a very good decision, because I think someone, especially in the last season or two, has become a much better defensive-minded player. I think actually we defend very well when he's playing in that midfield. I think a lot of criticism at the start was, if you play him there, you know, we lose defensive stability. Disagree. I think we actually defend very well with him in there.
Defends better because he covers ground much faster. And if you notice, Samson gives away very few fouls.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
he's able to actually press in an intelligent way.
He's a player who you can tell is training in the Premier League. You can tell straight away, because nobody has the nobody in the Iran national team or in the Iran national team matrix has the foresight to go and press somebody in that position to win the ball back. Nobody's going to do that. Not even Hossein Nejad will do that. Not a lot of players will go and press and win it back and get an assist. A lot of players will shy away from that type of pressure on the ball. Someone knew that he could win it back, and he knew he had the pace on the defender and won it, because he's fit enough. First of all, he's got the technical ability to do so, and he's confident as a footballer in his abilities. No other player in Iran will be able to do that. So he's a very important player for us in that midfield. And when he got injured, straight away, I was really hoping to see Hossein Nejad come on, but he's not going to come on. Amir Ghalenoei won't do that. He won't make that change. We all know that. It's the right change to make, but he won't make it. So Ali Karimi came on, and I think it ruined the game for us. Second half, I think we also showed, as Sahand mentioned before, we showed times where we're not able to control the game properly. You're 2-0 ahead.
Not times. We didn't control the game for that second half. We didn't control 1 minute. And we're lucky. We're lucky we came away with 2-2. If you go back and watch those highlights,
they had a lot of chances. They
had more chances than us in the first half, I'd say.
Yeah.
It was really, I think that was one of the worst halves that I've seen from Team Melli.
Well, yeah. Collapse. I actually think it was one of the best halves we had in the first half for a long time.
That was our best half of football since
crazy.
The Wales game. Since the Wales game, that was our best game.
If you ever want to call a game, you know, night and day or a tale of two halves, it's that. It is crazy how much it was a change of tempo, of emphasis on getting the ball into, you know, just controlling the game. And then finally, I think the other change that again didn't make any sense whatsoever was bringing on Ruzbe Cheshmi for Sardar Osman. Doesn't make any sense. Why did he even bring off Osman? That's the first thing.
Tell you, this is again Ghalenoei, in his mind. I think he is thinking, I need to hold on to this lead, but
that's wrong.
Such a limited understanding of the game management that his idea of holding on to the lead, instead of saying, okay, we need to hold on to we need to keep the ball first, because they're pressuring. The first thing we need to do is keep the ball when we get it to relieve pressure on the back line. His idea is, if I just keep subbing in defensive midfielders, that will help us hold the game. So he's put on 3 profiles that
inviting pressure.
None of them can run. Izzatullah, Karimi, and Cheshmi. None of them can move, none of them can receive the ball under pressure in tight spaces. And they're all sitting on top of each other. None of them are covering spaces wide. And all that's happening is they're just sending wave after wave, and they're not doing anything except making foul. I mean, all I think Cheshmi did was foul like 4 times in 10 minutes.
It's quite a bad, not just that he doesn't have.
He handed the initiative to them.
Yeah.
And, they were spurred. They had a ton of fans there. There was a good atmosphere for them. And they just took the initiative. And then when he subs Osmoon was 3 players were marking Osmoon the whole game. When you sub him, 2 of those just go in and join the attack too.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you go 3 at the back and you have essentially have 5 defenders on, just because you've got more defenders on does not mean you're going to defend your lead. Doesn't mean that. No, exactly. Numerically increasing your defenders actually, I always believe this, actually is a detriment to how you play the game, because it really puts pressure on your defenders. You're taking out a midfielder to put a defender on. And actually, if he had put Cheshmi in midfield, I would have been completely okay with it. I was okay, you put another midfielder on, that's fine. But you actually put him in defense, which, first of all, stupid, because you could have brought on Majid Hosseini if you're going to put a centre back on. That's the first things first. But if you're gonna bring Cheshmi on, you need to play him in midfield. Didn't happen, and then we just invited pressure for about 30 minutes, whatever it was. Just not good at all from Ghalenoei. Now, Ghalenoei probably wasn't aware that Uzbekistan could actually offer that kind of attack, because they didn't do it for so long of a period during the game. But as soon as Uzbekistan are not a bad team. First of all, they're a very good team. When you look at their individuals, they have a couple of good players. You give them an opportunity to get back in the game, they will do it. They're not going to sit back and just defend for 90 minutes. They're going to try and win the game. So if you give them that chance, then they're going to do it, and they did it.
To the experience thing. If Ghalenoei himself is like an experienced coach, and you have all these players that he keeps playing with, so he says, okay, these are the experienced guys. I would expect more from an experienced group of players than to be so comfortable against the Uzbek team in Tashkent winning 2-0. And if you look at the post-game comments, Bayram Van, he said, and it's a direct quote, he said that we at halftime believed that we were going to become finalists at the Asian Cup. Like, we were playing so good that we thought, okay, that's it. Like, we're going to be like, oh my, it's over. Not only this game is over, but we're playing at such an advanced level that we're going to cruise to the Asian Cup final. You have a senior player who's saying that that's the mentality of the team. You have a coach who, after the game, comes and says, our players stopped running in the second half. Okay, that's it. That's kind of true. But you're the coach. What reaction did you show? You were sitting there on the sideline. What did you do when your team wasn't running?
Okay, so I guess that, we didn't mention it, but the game finished 2-2 with a goal from Taremi and a goal from Rezaian. That's Rezaian's second goal, actually, after Hong Kong. So getting a couple goals from right back, which is cool. But yeah, both came from the first half. Both came from pretty decent play. Rezaian's goal should not have gone in. The goalkeeper should have definitely saved it. But I guess the build-up play was still good. Anything you guys want to say before moving to fan questions?
No, I actually really liked Osman's little through ball, little round the corner flick. Really
very nice.
I actually think Osman had a very good 2 games these last 2. I think he's been very, very positive the last 2 games.
You're given the captain's armband as well.
Yeah, he was very happy about
that.
On
that point, it's worth mentioning that he made the move to Roma. He hasn't gotten a ton of minutes yet, but he's been quite effective in the limited minutes he's gotten, and he scored his first goal a couple of weeks ago. But for those people who are, wondering how his move would affect him, I think he looks a lot fitter than he did when he was at Leverkusen at the back end of last season, a lot fitter. I know he was struggling with that injury from the World Cup that he played through, that he definitely shouldn't have played, with the calf that got torn again in preseason. But now he looks like he lost weight. He looks sharper. His link-up play is good. And I would expect him in the next couple months, or whatever weeks before the Asian Cup, to get some more minutes at Roma. And I think they've liked, so far what he's done in limited minutes. So I think it's been good.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's
Just
move
a
on to
quick
fan
one
questions.
as well. Sorry, the good point there, because like the two players who haven't played at club level are Samson and Osman as much, but they were probably the two better players for us in these last two games. That tells you that they're such high quality players that even if low game time doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I guess the argument is like, is the sub bench at a, I guess, European club, or in someone's case a Premier League club, better than playing
Yeah.
week in week out
Mate.
at an Iranian league
Yeah.
club? But that's the argument, right? Like
Mate.
it makes a ton of sense.
It
But I think the
doesn't
only thing
matter.
is also from one point of view, it's good that Salman, yeah, he's on the bench, but he's getting a lot more minutes than he was last year. And
The thing
you
is,
can
like,
see that in his performance, that even when he's playing now, he looks a lot more confident. He looks,
Yeah.
I mean, game time, I think, has an effect. You have to have some base level of game time, but I think someone's getting enough game time now where he can dictate a game for Team Melli and be okay.
if you're some random Joe from the PGPL and you go to Serie A and you never play, then yeah, that's different. But because if you're a guy like someone, you're a guy like Sadrzadeh, who are already talented footballers, if you don't play a lot of football for an Iranian national team, it doesn't really translate that like they're going to be bad for us or anything like that. So no, for them it doesn't matter as much, So fan questions.
Fan questions.
So we're gonna start from Twitter first. We've got quite a lot on Instagram as well. Some of them are just repeating them, but we'll try and go through as many as possible. First of all, comes from at SN 007 007. He asks, any chance of the U17 kids getting called up? I suppose that's probably like the next couple of years. Yeah, I think again Nima Andar's had a fantastic tournament Indonesia. He did really well. I think he will definitely get a move this summer or next summer coming up. I can see him moving to a decent team in Europe potentially. And again, as I mentioned before, I think Amir Ghalenoei could definitely help us in midfield in a couple of years' time. Again, it depends on their club decisions and where they go. I believe they both play for Kia, right? Both of those players
play for Mahdi Kia's academy.
Yeah, which is
they've both been there. So
great.
that's
Yeah,
for a Euro move. I mean, they're definitely going to encourage that. But I would
Yeah.
say that, as somebody who followed the last U17 team that went to the World Cup and did very well, which was the Abbas Chamanion's team with Allahverdi, with Delphi, with Tosh Ariati, that went one round further than this team. They actually beat Mexico in the round of 16 and then lost to Spain in the quarterfinal 3-1. I would say this team, though, is more talented individually than that team. Much more talented. I think the players are much better, much more well-rounded. I mean, before you had like a profile like Allahverdi, who really stood out because at that age, he was physically ahead of everybody else. He was stronger, he was faster. And then that didn't translate for him very well in the men's game. It was okay for a while, and then he used his speed when the other players were as strong as him. But then when the speed factor got taken away from him because of injury, and then also playing in a league where the space is more limited, he didn't have anything to fall back on like we see now. But these players, what I saw from them, I mean, Nima Andar's a very well-rounded player. For a right back, his technique on the ball, his dribbling, his speed, his tackling technique, 1v1 defending is much better than
the Iranian Carvajal for sure.
You can call him whatever you want, but that guy
Brilliant.
is a serious player. Sadrzadeh, for a player that tall and big, we just saw what we saw for Team Melli was a lot of midfielders that can't cover space, big guys that can't move at all, and how detrimental that is. And in comparison, this guy, he covers space fast. He does it without fouling. He had the most interceptions of any player in the whole tournament. He was creating chances. He was solid technically. Those two I really like. Ismail Qolizadeh from Sepahan was another player who I think had a great tournament, some really nice goals. And a lot of other players too. The goalkeeper was excellent, or Shoshakuri. The right winger, Baroje. There's a lot of talent. But, at that age, it's hard to say who's going to ultimately translate. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But I would say from what I saw, there's a good chance for those players because their game is well-rounded. They're not reliant on just, say, physical thing that when at the higher level, other people will be able to match.
Yeah. But yeah, like it was a tough tournament. Not tough in the sense that the other teams are a lot better, but I think these players they're not playing a lot of football. They're not playing. And plus, Iranian academies are not. They're good. Some of them are okay, but a lot of them aren't playing at a really high level. They're good setups, some of them, but they're not playing at a great level. So to expect them to go into a World Cup,
the teams they're competing against, I think
Yeah.
you mean, is not like,
Yeah.
you have three. The base of this team is the Sepahan, Fulad, and Mahdi academies. And it's not like they're playing against teams equivalent to Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, or Brazilian
and
academy.
that's why I was so critical of England, because they lost to Uzbekistan in this competition. So if they can't beat Iran comfortably, and Iran can hold their own for a long period of game, shows how much talent these players have, and shows how well Abdi did with this team. So yeah, we'll see how it goes going forward. Next question. Good question actually, coming in from Twitter again, by at Robert84915. Yes, does Mani Kone have any role or effect on the tactics of the team? Now, I actually have a little bit of intel on this, and from what I've heard is Mani Kone, his main, especially in the training ground, his main job is to work on the defensive aspect of the team, and to get a team to work well defensively on the training ground, not so much during match day, but that's his kind of main coaching aspect. From what I'm hearing, it's not going particularly well either. It's going to take a long time for his defensive coaching to work with this team. But we shall see how that progresses. He is obviously coach at Lazio and I think Switzerland as well, so he should.
He's extremely qualified.
Of course he is.
The guy is. I mean, he was an Inter Milan player. He played a lot of games in Syria. He was Petkovic's assistant at Lazio, at Switzerland for many years. The Swiss national team had a great kind of 8-year period, and he was the assistant coach at Bordeaux also. So, I mean, it's hard to say behind the scenes. I mean, Arya has a little bit of information, but it's hard to say how many decisions, are made by Ghalenoei. Does this guy have the authority to say this player needs to start? I don't really know. And we don't know. But you would hope that if he's working on the defensive end, something's still wrong, because I think it's just the weakest our defense has looked for a long time.
Yeah, but again, there's not a ton of options. If you want to argue, I don't think there's a ton of options.
I think
I have to disagree.
I think it's a good thing to talk about, actually, but
I think
Majid Hosseini, in my opinion,
there
is no reason that Shoja Khalilzadeh, who right now is playing for Traktor and not really playing that well, he's not even the best center back at Traktor. Arya he has actually been playing much better than him this season.
Yeah.
And at age 34, 35, there is no reason he should be starting over somebody like Majid. I'm not even talking about a young kid like Hasbavi who has, great potential. You're talking about Majid Hosseini, who is World Cup, 2 World Cups of experience, an Asian Cup of experience, is a regular for the 4th place team in Turkey. He had some injury problems in the last year, but he's been playing now for multiple months at a good condition. Shoja starting ahead of him, I think, is just, I really can't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but I also don't get how he played Milad in that game against Uzbekistan. What was the decision behind that? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
Milad has had so many chances for Team
Yeah, he was horrible against Uzbekistan.
He's blessed by the fact that we have a left back issue.
True.
But to give him another chance, and that first goal, he totally is switched off.
But he got beaten 1v1 so many times.
And Haj Safi has problems too. That's the other thing. Haj Safi 1v1 isn't a great, but I think that on the whole, Haj Safi is just a better player than Milad.
course.
But you're kind of proving my point, right? Like Haj
Before
Safi is
switched on.
aging. He's not technical. He's not that
No,
great.
and
Like
Like,
he's much better. I think
I-
he's still much
but
better.
still, like the options aren't really there.
no,
Majid Hosseini, I think much
Okay,
better.
take Majid Hosseini out. That's one player. Pirali Ganji's injured.
I would play Muharrami at left back.
Yeah,
At this
I think
moment
it's
in
another
time,
good option.
I think Muharrami had played at left back already for Dinamo Zagreb. He has played there a few times.
Yeah.
He did all right there.
He's played
you
in
could
the
al-
Europa League as a left back.
Yeah, and okay, he's not left-footed, but it doesn't matter.
I
You
think-
need a player who can defend well 1v1.
just
You
wanted
can't
to
have
bring up
Hasafi and
one
Murad
thing
Mohammadi.
is also regarding the speed of the back four. Because if you want to play in the system Ghalenoei wants to play, which is, let's face it, Team Melli's having more of the ball and trying to have more sustained build-up play than previously. I think we can all agree on that. And one of the biggest pieces of evidence is the fact that he's inserted Salman Kudus as a starter at the base of midfield. So that shows you that the mentality of this coach is that we're going to have the ball and try to exert some of our influence on the game as opposed to being reactive, which I think is actually not a bad thing. When you make that decision and you advance your fullbacks as high as our fullbacks are getting, I mean, look at Ramin's position on the second goal. Look at his position when he scored his own goal. The guy is getting high up the field. When you get high up the field, and especially when Salman Kudus then leaves the field and you're having more turnovers than usual, but even when Salman's on the field and you lose the ball, the defensive transition is where you're going to get killed. The question becomes how fast can your midfielders and how fast can your fullbacks and your center backs get into defensive position and cover. And this back four that he's selected, none of them have recovery speed. None of them.
Love to see it.
Kanoni,
Yeah.
1v1 isolated on the right side against Shomarudov. He got skinned.
Actually,
If you look
not
at
just that,
goal-
the second goal that
The
we
second goal,
scored.
that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
they scored. Yeah. The
Yeah.
second goal they scored, I would really encourage whoever's listening to go back and watch the full scene.
We'll have it on the screen.
Ramin is so advanced, he doesn't get back. He looks at the guy. He runs back. He sees there's one player in the box. He
Yeah.
sees him. He's in the right
He
back
actually gives
zone.
up
That
on it.
player,
Yeah.
and he has totally the amount of time needed to get up back to him.
Yeah. He gives
doesn't.
up. Yeah.
Kanoni is high up the field for God knows what reason. He sees the same player. He gets back. He's close to the guy. He's in his vicinity. He doesn't pick him up. Shoja Khalidzadeh is dragged out to the left side to the ball. Okay. Look how long it takes him to shut down the space between the winger and the ball, the crosser and the ball. He doesn't even get close. The guy unopposed puts in a cross. 4 players, Ramin, Kanoni, and the midfielders who were tracking Chesh, I think it was Karimi at that point, and Saeed, not one of them goes to the only player in the box.
Yeah.
I mean, that goal to me is one of the worst goals that we've conceded in years. Because
Ramirez actually quit. He actually went and covered the guy who was the cutback option, which is he would never get the ball because the way he was
Right.
standing.
I mean, that
So-
goal to me was an insult, honestly, to everybody watching, and an
Yep.
insult to our intelligence too. Because if you want to play this team in this way with this setup, and you're going to have your right back for no reason when the game's 2-1 and we're under the cosh on the other side of the field trying to get a third goal, and then you playing defenders who have no recovery speed, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to have more chances on the break. They're going to kill you in the transitions, and they did, and they were very unlucky not to score more goals. And what's going to happen tomorrow when we go to the Asian Cup and we're going to play South Korea, most likely, in the quarterfinal, is you're going to have players of much higher quality bearing down on you in defensive transition. And so right now, I would say is the only time, there's no time left. They need to make a decision and say, look, Shoja Khalidzadeh, if you compare his recovery speed to Majid Hosseini, it's night and day. The guy can't be playing.
Yeah.
Sadrzadeh Muharrami is the only player we have in that back four that you would say this guy at a high level, he's shown, okay, he's inconsistent, I agree with you, but he's shown that he has speed. He has recovery speed and he can do a defensive job. If you put him at left back, that's going to make you instantly less susceptible to defensive transition and 1v1 getting killed. So
I'd want to
that's the
see
key thing for this
Hasbavi.
team, is
I'd
that-
want to see Hasbavi play this game against Indonesia at the very least.
I
Because
mean, you look at a profile like Hasbavi from a standpoint of recovery speed,
yeah, he's quick. He's quick.
he's very fast.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the one thing. When the coaching staff has chosen to go with a much more, let's say, offensive kind of style compared to Queiroz, who would close these spaces. Queiroz would very rarely, if you take Queiroz's whole tenure into consideration, would he allow players with limited recovery speed to be isolated 1v1 or running like that in defensive transition back towards their own goal? And the reason was because he knew that they could not handle it. When you play an open system, you want to speak about tactics, you look at a team like Man City. They went and found defenders like Joshua Guardiola, like Kyle Walker. These guys are rapid in defensive transition. They get back. These guys are so slow. And it's going to cost our team in the end. And I think they need to do something seriously because you look at the games we've had now, just with Ghalenoei, Jordan, we were getting exposed left and right by Jordan. No disrespect to Jordan, but if we want to go at a higher level, we're going to face wingers and offensive players
we
that are
almost
higher quality.
We almost lost to Kenya at one point.
The Kenya game, we're
You
getting
know,
exposed defensive transition again. The Russia game,
was
defensive
horrible.
transition again. Today, defensive transition again. Hong Kong, I mean, Canoni covered those couple situations, but
we almost got
in.
caught out. Yeah, we did.
Why?
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
we, as a team, the biggest weakness of this team is defensive transition. And you know where it happens every time? Down the sides. It always happens down the sides. Because Ramin's so advanced. I mean, because he scores a couple goals. I know everyone's so happy that he scores, but his job is to defend too. That's also part of his job.
Yeah.
And defensive transition, it's the same thing with him.
Yeah.
He's gone. And then you put those center backs, sometimes those center backs, if they're fast enough, they can cover the space on the side. Shurja Khalidzadeh cannot cover the space on the side.
Okay, let's move on to the last question then. Instagram comes from Albors _ Malak Ahmad. He asks, will Izzatullah ever be good again? No, look, I don't think Izzatullah. I don't think Izzatullah played badly. I don't think he played great. But Izzatullah, again, he's playing in Denmark. You need to understand what the level he's playing at. We're comparing him to himself 3 years ago. He isn't that player anymore. So I don't think he'll be that player again, if that's the question you're asking. But I think for the level he's playing at, he's not actually doing that badly. I think he has improved his physical, his physique. He's a better athlete now than he was last year. So I just hope that I hope that his partnership with someone actually helps him, because I think it was helping him a lot in these last 2 games. So
I would just say, as fans, we also have to take into consideration somebody's resume and what they've done. You can't just say, okay, he had a bad camp this time or a bad, let's say, last 2 camps. Saeed Izzatullah, even with his club situation, has always been a mess. I mean, let's just be totally honest. Before the 2018 World Cup, he was playing for Amkar Perm, which was like a relegation level Russian team. Before the last World Cup, he was in the 2nd division of Denmark. And each time, the guy raised his game tenfold for those key matches. You have to be honest. Against Uruguay, against Senegal, against Wales, and against the US, in a game where other people were horrible, he had a very solid game. So I think it's unfair. Saeed can raise his level for big games. So I think I'm less worried about the Saeed situation. And even now, I would say actually at club level, he's doing better than he was 12 months ago. I think, he's playing at a higher level, the 1st tier as opposed to the 2nd tier.
Yeah.
He's been pretty consistent. He's getting in the team of the week there. So, and we don't have a replacement for him anyway. So I think Saeed is Saeed. It's been a huge disappointment on the potential. He delivered about 10% of what he could or less. So I think as a talent, he's on the same level as Osman and Taremi are. And yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, arguably, you would say he had a better start than both of those players. Like Atletico Madrid Academy, like he had the best start you could imagine for anyone.
I think I would actually say he's the most talented player in the team. I think he had more talent.
I think as a round, if you want to look at how well-rounded he is,
yeah,
he had and somewhere along the line, very early, whatever, he made bad decisions. But also now, if you look at just the technical aspect, his problem is his speed.
Yeah,
he can't cover ground fast at all. I mean, it
No.
takes him so long to cover not a lot of ground. And that's what's killing him at club level, I think. I think he could play, even right now, I think from a technical standpoint and defensive understanding, range of passing, he could play in a top 5 league.
When he played those few games for Reading, he wasn't bad. Like he was.
No, for
he was
Reading,
fine.
for Reading, he was actually very, very good.
Yeah.
And back then he was much fitter. But I'm saying even now, I think right now he could play in a top 5 league if he had this issue of his speed sorted out a little bit. You know, I don't see why he couldn't play in like a lower tier.
Yeah, that's all the fan questions then.
Yeah.
Finished there.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I guess the next game will confirm it, but it'll be against Indonesia as a friendly, and we'll keep you updated as to when that would be. And I guess like after that would be the Asian Cup in January. So keep updated on Twitter, Instagram. Follow us on there for updates. If you're watching us on YouTube, then leave us a like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you so much for listening again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Hi, my name is Saman Godus. I'm playing for the Iranian national team and Brentford Football Club, and you are listening to Bezan podcast.